Thank you very much, Zoe. We've already heard about the heat and building strategy that the Scottish Government launched at the beginning of October, and we know that decarbonising heat is a massive opportunity for growth. The Scottish Government are investing substantially in the heat and buildings transition of about £1.8 billion in the course of this Parliament, and we know that heat pumps are one of the strategic technologies that are going to help us to do that. So what we're now going to do is hear from Dave Pearson, Group Sustainable Development Director from Star Renewables, and he's going to talk about Queen's Quay project, which Richard mentioned as part of his presentation on Clyde Mission.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you all for being here and the millions and millions watching online. Thank you to you as well. Got a slightly tricky job. I've got three stories to tell you, and tell you on behalf of all the people involved in this project. And there's dozens, but not least of all our client Vital Energy, who did all the clever stuff. Their client West Dunbartonshire Council, that did all the brave stuff, and then everybody behind them, the Scottish Enterprise, the Scottish Government, and the UK Government as well. Make no bones about this. This is a scheme that was part of a much wider mission set by the European Union many years ago. So, tricky story to tell you, but the first bit to try and impart on you is exactly what it looks like and that it works. The second bit is really why it was done this way rather than other ways. And the third bit is, what do we have to do to see this again? You know, I don't like standing here as a bit of a freak. I kind of want this to be the first of many, not the last of one. And that's really the point of this whole piece, but to lay that up as we go through. So, is it a threat or opportunity, this climate change thing? Well, I'm very pleased to see that sort of language has been used just down the road at COP, that we very much are seeing the opportunity of this, the investment opportunity, the jobs opportunity, the clean air opportunity, lots and lots of different opportunities. So, video speaks louder than words or pictures or whatever. Here's a quick flyby of what's going on down at Queen's Quay. The building you can see with the red archway, a tribute to the past. The site is John Brown's. A quick walk around the plant room, taken quite a long time ago. Sorry about the rubbish in the corner, that's just every job. And the heat pumps, and I'll explain a little bit more about these as they go, but I think you've probably already got the impression this is not a little box, this is a big heat pump. And there's a better picture, and some brilliant architectural features went into the job as well, because they're very proud of it down there, and so they should be. So, thinking about this roadmap we keep hearing about, I tend to think more in terms of a destination. What do I want to find when I get there? Whether it's 2050 or 2045 or halfway there by 2030. Really, there's a whole suite of different things that we want to find as we go forwards, and you can pick any of these as your favourite. But for me, it's probably somewhere between local jobs and clean air. Definitely the renewable energy piece. I definitely think at some point the UK government's going to realise that importing 50% of the gas we burn is probably undermining the economy, and doing a better balance of that. But the interesting one for anybody in the broader energy context, smart grids, is fascinating. How do you get users of electricity to work better with suppliers of electricity? And there's not been nearly enough academic research on that to try and synchronise these grids. So, the really important thing, and it was a brilliant question that Paul Steen asked earlier about different stuff, and there were some good answers to it, but the simple answer is there are lots of different places we use heat. This building that we're in just now, I'll bet you any money, it's heated by gas. It's very different for a brand new house that's been built on the outskirts of the city, which is very different from a house that was built 5 years ago, which is very different from the tenements of Shawlands or the West End. And equally very different from the stuff down next to the river. There's some brilliant building work going on. We have to solve all of it, but it's all slightly different. It shares some of the same challenges that I'll walk through, but really it's about finding a heat source for all of these. It's about finding that heat demand, which we know exists because we use so much gas, but it absolutely has to fit with a return on investment, and that's about having a positive ROI and actually being able to do something. And the slightly crazy thing at the moment is we're trying to be as cost competitive as gas, which is the thing that we really ought not to be doing. It's kind of like saying, you know, do you prefer eating salads or donuts? They're really quite incompatible in some sort of ways. I obviously prefer donuts to salads. So as we step through that and into what a heat pump looks like, for me, the diagram was used earlier, there's the bit where the heat goes in, the low grade, in our case down at Queen's Quay, it's the river water. And in the case of the electricity, where does that come from? South of Scotland has got a really low grid intensity factor. It's 59 grams of carbon per kilowatt hour right now. So a heat pump with an efficiency of 3 is effectively creating heat for 20 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour. That's 10% of burning gas. So this is a job that really is almost going home run. I really feel I should take the rest of the day off and just relax. But it's done that job. All we have to do is more of it. That's the key thing to say. So, was it a big risk? Well, in some respects it was for everybody, but equally, and we stand on the shoulders of giants. We didn't invent heat pumps. We happen to do them a particular way using natural working fluids because we think they're more environmentally friendly. But the first job we did was 10 years ago in Norway, and they certainly weren't the first people to do heat pumps. It goes all the way back to 1852. It was talked about in 1855 in an Austrian salt mine. It was actually done. But it's really just about finding the place where you can do these over and over. So we did it in Norway. The client asked us to. They asked us to do 90 degrees, which had never been done before, with ammonia as a working fluid. And they asked us to do a saltwater fjord, which is really brings some challenges in itself. So that gave us the confidence when topics came up of what could we do in Scotland. Now, to put this in context, in 2008, the UK government announced the non-domestic renewable heat incentive. It basically paid about twice the cost of burning gas not to burn gas. A massive big push towards doing something different. Up until 2018, however, there was no tariff guarantee for this. So what that basically meant was the investor, in this case Western Bartonshire Council and the government, would have to build the entire project, get the commissioning certificate, hand it in and then say, A, can I have that money you promised me, and B, how much are you going to give me? That clearly is not an investable proposition. Very pleased to see Eddie McAvinci from Scottish National Investment Bank up there. We were joking at lunchtime. Definitely more steady Eddie than risk-taking crazy Eddie. Investors like surety. That's the key thing. What is going to give you a return on investment? He'll lend you lots of money, but he wants it back. That's the very simple proposition. So steady Eddie is the way that we all have to be thinking. And in Queen's Quay, in 2018, they did have this change in policy. It took 3 years for the government to change the policy, and then it changed, and then there was 2 years left to use the non-domestic renewable heat incentive, and now it's finished. Don't forget that point. I'll come back to it. So, Queen's Quay, an artist's impression, but really it's beginning to look a lot like this. We've got the buildings that are being built out, and there's a whole suite of different stuff I'll not dwell on, but all sorts of different types, and some of it's new, some of it's small, some of it's big, and some of it's old stuff that's been there for years. And it's there. It's being heated by the district heating system. It's in the building there. I should point out the relatively small structure there is a thermal store, and this is part of the strategy of maybe don't buy electricity when it's really expensive, buy it earlier, make some hot water and keep it for later, and there'll be some really interesting stuff that we can expand in that. Spoken many times with Andrew Bissell over many years, but what if we did some sort of phase change thing to get even more thermal capacity there, which basically just means, this is a very Scottish way of looking at things, basically means buy what you need, but buy it cheaper earlier. There's a sale on in the morning, but not in the afternoon. So, obviously very proud of the heat pumps and all sorts of different factors about this as well. Could we do cooling with them? Yes, we could. You know, being fit for the whichever generation we're aiming at, but really taking it forwards from today, they are really going all the way to 2050 in terms of decarbonisation. So, into the bit that really is the bit that excites me, heat pumps. I must admit, I find them a bit ordinary now, and so many people are talking about them. It's really brilliant. Heat demand is the bit that really matters. There's absolutely no point building district heating round Glasgow, for example, if you don't know that the buildings are going to buy from it. Offtake surety is the fancy way of saying it. And really that, A, has to exist later on when it's in operation, but B, if you're planning to ask for lots of funding from somewhere or take government money into something, you really need to know ahead of that how much heat demand there will be. So our vision, certainly for the future, is that we try and create this pledge that the buildings, this building, for example, should be being asked by somebody, what's your plan to decarbonise? It very much fits with what Julie was saying about LHEs. But Don't wait until there's a district heating maybe about to happen. Do it now. It's the sort of thing that could be written in policy. Strong policy, I believe, is a techie term for it. It's not legislation, but it's definitely a big hint of this is what might be coming. So what if somebody said to this building, it's highly likely to decarbonise, that we will have to create some sort of pain around burning gas or air quality if you pledge to join district heating when it arrives in 5 years, because it's complicated, make no bones about it. But if you pledge now, you'll get a much better deal. So get these pledges racked up, and then when we go out to the investors, be it any Vattenfall, SSE, Engie, there's several of them. What if we're going out to them and saying, we've already got 50% of the building saying, yes, please, I want to be part of this story. That's the way that you get the investment coming in at the lowest price, and that's the way you see Queen's Quay 2, not to pick up on the fact that it was where the 2 of the Queens were built. So thank you for your time just now. I'll pass you along to Linda, I guess, who will then introduce you, and I'll sit down and shut up. But thank you.